Kawasaki CEO just pulled a move the entire industry has been ignoring for nearly a decade. Out of nowhere, he lifted the sheet off the new W230, a retro naked built with the same simple bones that made the old W series legends. No flashy tech, no digital distractions, just a straightforward thumper built for riders who still believe a motorcycle should feel mechanical, not digital. Tonight, we're digging into what the W230 really is, why Kawasaki resurrected this line, and how it blindsided the competition. And if you stick with me, you'll see why this little bike just might rewrite the entire retro class. The reveal: Kawasaki did not walk onto that stage, expecting polite applause. The moment the chief executive stepped forward and pulled the cover from the new W230, the entire room shifted. You could feel it in the way veteran journalists stopped typing and actually looked up. This was not one of those routine product refreshes that come and go every season. This felt like a message, an appointed one for riders who have been around long enough to see trends rise and fall. The shock came from the seriousness behind the presentation. Kawasaki spoke with the tone of a company that knew exactly what it was bringing back into the world. Older riders in the crowd recognized the weight of that decision. They have watched companies drift toward tech-first thinking for years, chasing younger buyers, and forgetting the value of mechanical honesty. When the announcement came, it felt like Kawasaki was speaking directly to riders who still appreciate machines that make sense in the garage. That is why the reveal landed so hard. The company was resurrecting a name that carries decades of meaning and doing it with confidence instead of caution. No one expected that move, and that is why the retro segment found itself caught off guard. What this reveal means becomes clearer when you look at the history Kawasaki chose to reopen. Heritage strategy. Kawasaki has always carried a split identity. One side builds high-performance machines that push limits, and the other side protects a long tradition of simple, honest motorcycles. The decision to bring back the W lineage did not come from nostalgia alone. It came from recognizing that experienced riders still look for machines that carry a sense of history. The company understood that a motorcycle does not earn loyalty from screens or gimmicks. It earns it from personality, lineage, and the kind of authenticity that cannot be faked in a boardroom. The original W series, stretching back to the W1, represented a moment when Kawasaki set out to build a machine that felt timeless. Those early bikes blended straightforward engineering with a design language that stood apart from the crowd. Riders who lived through those years remember the pride of owning a machine that carried itself with quiet confidence. By reopening that door, Kawasaki is acknowledging that history still has value in a world that often forgets it. The W230 is less about chasing a trend and more about restoring a piece of the company's soul. That heritage foundation sets the stage for a deeper look at the visual language guiding this machine. If you're following this and want more straight talk on the moves shaping our industry, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts. It helps us keep these conversations going and puts real riders back at the center. The retro language. The W230 does not pretend to be something modern, dressed up with cosmetic tricks. Its entire design draws directly from the era that shaped the W identity in the first place. You can trace the influence of 1,960 seconds metalwork in the tank profile, the frame geometry, and the overall stance. Nothing looks exaggerated or overstyled. Instead, the bike carries a balanced and familiar look that immediately signals where it comes from. The analog instruments echo that same idea, offering a visual rhythm riders remember from decades ago. Metal surfaces are shaped to catch light the way older machines did, and the overall proportions follow the philosophy of form-serving function. There are no sharp corners fighting for attention, no unnecessary distractions, and no attempt to blend eras into a confused hybrid. Kawasaki leaned fully into a clean, retro aesthetic, trusting that experienced riders would appreciate a motorcycle that honors its roots. The W230 feels like a reflection of a time when design meant clarity and when a motorcycle earned respect through its presence alone. Once the design roots are understood, the intention behind the engineering becomes impossible to ignore. You'll find the road-tested gear and accessories I trust, made for riders who value simplicity and mechanical purity. The engineering vision. When Kawasaki set out to build the W230, the goal was not to chase performance charts or win marketing battles. Market position. When the W230 stepped onto the world stage, industry analysts didn't rush to lump it into the usual categories. This wasn't a sport machine. It wasn't a commuter tool pretending to be something bigger. And it wasn't another attempt at copying a trend that already burned itself out. Instead, the W230 slid into a corner of the market that has quietly grown year after year. driven not by the youngest riders, but by those who still remember when motorcycles were tools first and entertainment second. The W230 belongs to the class of machines that treat simplicity as a feature, not a compromise. And that alone places it in a category with real weight behind it. Lightweight retros exists because there is still a segment of the industry that values a mechanical connection over outright performance. Riders who want a machine that can be understood at a glance and mastered without a training course filled with electronics. The market has learned that nostalgia isn't a fashion trend. It's a stabilizing force in a world where too many bikes chase specs instead of soul. Manufacturers have returned to this segment because it doesn't collapse when the economy shifts. It doesn't depend on high-dollar buyers. It attracts riders who stick around, maintain their machines, and talk about them the way farmers talk about tools that never let them down. This segment fits into the larger industry by acting as a pressure valve. When big bikes grow larger, heavier, and more complicated, lightweight retros keep the culture grounded. They remind riders why they fell in love with the craft in the first place. And that's why major manufacturers keep paying attention. This category isn't about the flash of a new release. It's about long-term brand identity. Understanding its place in the market leads directly to the conversation riders always weigh carefully. Price reality. When Kawasaki announced the price of the W230, the industry didn't react the way it normally does. Younger riders compared it to displacement. Commentators compared it to horsepower, but older riders looked at the number through an entirely different lens. For them, price isn't just a number. It's the opening chapter of a much longer story. They look at what it costs to own, to maintain, and to keep running over tens of thousands of miles. Price is a handshake. It signals honesty, respect, and intent. Veteran riders evaluate a price tag through long-term math. It's not about the initial hit to the wallet. It's about knowing what a machine will cost over several seasons, several tire changes, several oil intervals, and several states worth of riding.